Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to the Not Too Shabby YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you 5 ways to alter patterned paper using the Coffee and Friends Kit of the Month from May 2021. The paper pack I'm using today is the Coffee and Treats pack. There are a lot of amazing papers in this set and some that are really fun to alter. I'm also using the Yum Yum stamp set from the kit, the Drink the Coffee stamp set, and I Heart Coffee. All 3 of the stamp sets from this set. For the first technique, we're going to splatter the background paper to alter it. I'm going to be using this watercolor set from Arteza, and there's a couple browns in here. I'm going to use the 2 darkest colors, spritzing that with water, picking that up with kind of a scraggly paintbrush, and then using the edge of a window sheet to splatter this on. Now, the watercolor is somewhat transparent when you splatter it, so it really gives that feel of spilt or splattered coffee, which I love that look for coffee related themes. For the second technique, we're going to stencil right over the top of our patterned paper. I'm using this striped piece and this swirly stencil, but I believe it's from Spellbinders, and I'm going to tape that in place and use some Glitz Glitter Gel from Gina K for my stenciling. So lovely glitter swirls over the top of this pink striped paper. I think it's a beautiful combination. So I'm just going to spread that out into a really thin layer using my offset spatula here. And then once I get it nice and smoothed out, I'm going to peel that off, put it in a pan of water so the glitter doesn't dry on my stencil and I can get to cleaning it shortly. Next, while that's drying, we'll do technique number 3. We're going to stamp on our background paper. I'm using the donut and cup of coffee from the Yum Yum stamp set and walnut ink from Lawn Fawn to stamp over the top of these polka dots. Now, I decided it would be fun to stamp in the middle of the polka dots, and I like how that looked, but you could also stamp randomly and not necessarily in a pattern. And there's lots of background papers or pattern paper that you could stamp on to add to it. So a really fun technique, and I'm using like an acrylic block for stamping. I don't do that very often. Normally it's my Misty, so this is kind of fun to do. So once I have that filled in, I'm going to bring in the tiny little word stamp that says sweet and use some dough ink so it's a lighter shade of brown, and just fill in a little bit of that area with the word sweet. I accidentally stamped one in the wrong spot, but in the end it's going to be covered up. So we'll move on to technique number 4, which is to doodle on your paper. What I did is I photocopied this paper and practice my doodling because I'm not like a professional doodler. You know, some people have the bullet journals and they make all these amazing doodles. I love that so much, but I'm not quite at that level. So I'm going to do this trusty flower. You know, when I'm on the phone and I have to take notes, this is often the flower that I doodle. So I decided to go for that and put it in between all of the polka dots. Now, another one that I tried on my practice sheet was just some dots. So I'm going to go in and add some dots to this as well. And I think it makes for a really fun customized background it's somewhat unique and special to me because it's the flower that I always doodle. So I thought it was really fun to use for this card. I also made sure that once my ink had a second to set up, that it wouldn't smear on this paper. So I thought that was an important thing to take note of. The paper that you're using can be a little bit different finish, and then the pen as well. So take note of that. And there it is, all finished up. We'll set that aside and move on to technique number 5, which is to ink it. So I have some vintage photo ink. I'm going to ink up this piece of pattern paper, which, by the way, I've cut all of my pieces to 3 by 6 inches for making mini slimline cards, except the one I stenciled. I'll go back and cut that one down, and the one I stamped, I'll cut those as well for my cards. So once I have an ombre effect with my ink, I did go ahead and splatter that with my distress sprayer filled with water to get some water droplet looks that I thought went really well with this tea background. So not all of these are coffee. All the backgrounds are done now. We're going to move on to stamping out the images that I'm going to use to create those backgrounds as cards. So I'm using that Yum Yum stamp set and the I Heart Coffee set, and I will use the other one, Drink Coffee, for a sentiment, but I'm going to do my sentiments with embossing. So these are just the pieces I'm going to use that I'm stamping and Copic coloring. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp all of these out with some Copic friendly black ink and then coloring. I'm going to start with E5-3 on this coffee bag. I kind of wanted to give it the look of burlap. So this will be the lightest color I use on this bag. And then for my darker color, I have E31. And you can see I'm just kind of focusing on the top and the bottom. There's some lines there, and I thought I'm just going to make that middle section a little bit darker than the other section. So I'll bring in my E31 again, but this time using it as the lighter color, and then I'll bring in a little bit darker shadow color, the E55 marker for that center area. And then it gives a little bit of contrast between the two sections. So that will give me kind of the look of burlap bags. And then for the coffee itself, I'm using E29 as my lightest color, and then E49 for my darkest, and I'll just do a little bit of shadowing over the top. Next, for my pink on all of the coloring, I'm using RV14 and RV13, and you'll see the repeated pink throughout this card. Now, this pink doesn't exactly match the pink on the background paper. I am going to show you one other marker that matches it really well when we get to, I believe, card number 4. So watch for that. And then I am creating this cup right here to be my cup of tea that's going to go on the final project. So I picked my E31 and E53 markers to make it look kind of the color of tea, a little bit darker than a cup of coffee. And then my cup is going to be gray, so I'm using C2 and C0 for a really light gray, which is the same colors I'll use on those spoons you see at the top and the little cups of coffee at the bottom. So any colors that really repeated themselves, I didn't necessarily show you, but I thought it would be really important to show you how I colored out this hamster. So I started with E00, and for my lightest, then I'm bringing in E13 as my darkest and putting that down where I want the shadows to go. And then for my mid-tone to blend all that out, I'm going to bring in E11 because I thought a tan hamster would be really cute. I used to have like a teddy bear hamster, and he was like brown with white. Oh, they're just cute. I think they're adorable, so I love this stamp right here. So the trick with this larger image and getting a really nice blend, for me at least, I kind of had trouble with how to do his face. I just went over it a couple times with these same markers, intensifying the shadows and softening out the blend, going back and forth between the 3 markers, and in the end I really love how he turned out. So for this muffin, I used the E00 and then E25. I thought it could be a chocolate chip muffin. That's what my girls like. And I used the 2 different pink markers, but to make a striped or muffin paper, not a cupcake. This one's a muffin. And then I used my E11 to add some shadowing there on the muffin part, and went over my chocolate chips again. So there's all of the images and all the markers that I use to color them. And then I'm adding some highlights with my white gel pen. I thought they looked especially good on these coffee beans, but I just gave a little white highlight to all of the things. I really like this look, so I do it on most all of my Copic colored images. There they are, all cut out. I used my Pick Scan Matte and my Cameo Silhouette to do that. And now I'm going to emboss some sentiments. I have 2 sentiments, one from the Yum Yum set, one from the I Heart Coffee set. I'm stamping both of them in Versamark ink and then embossing them with white powder so they really pop off of this dark brown cardstock. So here's my white powder, and you can see I stamped them twice, so I had extras. I thought I would possibly use it on the other cards as well. So now let's put these together and make cards. This is card number 1. I'm gluing together my cup of coffee with that nice whipped cream and the spoon to the coffee bag. I lightly set that down on my card with some foam squares, and then I'm going to put the sentiment so it's tucked behind there, and it will go flush with that left edge of the paper, and that is super cute. I love those coffee cups with the whipped cream kind of it's like whipped cream art. I love that background paper. Plus it kind of looks like polka dots. Now for some embellishment, I'm adding some crystal gem stickers from Honeybee that are brown, and then we'll move on to card number 2. So I'm flagging the end of my sentiment that says, "We go together like coffee and donuts." This is from the Yum Yum set, and I'm going to flag cut the end just with my scissors. And then I'll pop that up because I'm going over that background that has been enhanced with glitter gel. So I like using dimension on that, some foam. Also, I cut this pattern paper down to 2 3/4 by 5 3/4 because the stencil didn't quite go all the way to the edge. So when I glue this down to my card, I'll have a little border around it. I'm using my X-Acto knife to cut around the little hamster's hands so I can tuck in these 2 cups of coffee. I thought it would look cute for him to be, or it's a her, I put a bow on her. She's going to be delivering coffee for her and her friend. So, and then because it says donuts, I'm going to take the donut and just pop it on there right next to the hamster. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, so I like to think about it while I finish up the other parts of my card. So I added those gem stickers again and decided, yeah, let's go ahead and throw the donut on there. And then I'm going to glue this down to my 6x6 card panel that I scored at 3 inches and folded in half to make a mini slimline card. All 5 of the cards are going to be mini slimline today. So there is my card with that stenciled background. Now let's move on to the stamped background. I have some pieces of ephemera from this May kit, and I'm using the coffee cup from one of them for this card right here. So I'm using the marker RV52. I feel like this color really matches the pink in the paper the best as far as the Copic markers that I own anyway. So I just colored it in from the edge, leaving a center highlight. Now I'm gluing down another of my embossed sentiments, "We go together like coffee and donuts," and adding on my coffee cup and my donut. I love how this one turned out, the chocolate glazed donut. Oh, I could eat that right now. I'm going to trim off that excess that hangs over the edge, and then I decided that this card needed some splatter. So why not combine 2 of the techniques? I'm going to cover up the cute elements with a Post-it note, splatter some of that coffee look onto it, and I love how it turned out. Now to embellish this one, I'm bringing in some diamond stickles to go over that heart. And that finishes up card number 3. For card number 4, we're using that doodled background, and I'm going to bring out this Drink the Coffee stamp set and stamp out the sentiment on pink cardstock and emboss it with white. It says, "May your coffee kick in before reality does." And that looks so good embossed on that pink paper. I love it. I'm going to just trim this down a little bit so it fits onto my card, glue that in place, and then I'll have a little extra room there on the right side that I can add that coffee cup to. So once I trim this off, I'll bring out that ephemera pack and pick out the one that matches. And I decided to trim a little bit of the extra white off of this because this coffee cup actually is going to hang off of my card a little bit. So I wanted to reduce the amount that hangs off by trimming some of that down. So you can see the coffee cup matches my paper. My paper's doodled on, so why not doodle right on the cup? So I added in some freehand doodled hearts. This is scarier for me than doing the flowers, but it turned out all right. I don't mind if my doodling is not perfect. A doodle should be a little scratchy, I guess is the word I would use. So I'm going to glue that down to my mini slimline card, and I wanted to show you this will indeed fit in a mini slimline envelope, at least the ones that you can buy like at the grocery store. These are like the traditional style envelopes you would have had when you were a kid and wrote to your pen pal and folded up your notebook paper and stuck it in. That's what that is. Okay, so for card number 5, I am stamping a sentiment on pink paper again and embossing that. I actually brought out one of the stamp sets from last month's Lazy Days kit and stamped "You Deserve Some Me Time." I trimmed this down with my paper cutter into a little bit of a rectangle, and then I am trimming off the corners to give this kind of the look of a tea bag. And then I'm going to adhere my sentiments on top of this tag with some foam squares. So that little teacup and then the muffin So cute. And then I really wanted to add the spoon, but I wasn't sure it was going to fit, but I do come back and add it on. I have a little piece of twine here that I'm going to staple right to the top, giving it, again, that kind of tea bag look. And then here's the spoon. I did decide to add it in. I like clusters of 3. That odd number is just most appealing on your card. So I'll stick that down onto my ink blended background, and I'm using foam squares to do that. And then I'll just wrap that twine around the back and tape it down. Next, speaking of combining techniques, let's go ahead and do some doodling on this ink blended panel. I drew in some little ends of the tea bag, kind of like my tag. So I'm just repeating that element on here, and I love how that turned out. I think it's really super cute. So that is about it for card number 5. This one might be my favorite. Now, because I had that twine on the back, I decided to use some fun foam to pop this up and just really cover the back of this. Oopsie. With dimension, so it would be nice and sturdy, and I didn't have to use a ton of foam squares. So I glue that down to my mini slimline card, and that is all 5 of today's cards with altered patterned paper. I had so much fun playing with these techniques and making customized pattern paper. And I think this kit of the month from May is so fabulous. Now, I believe the kit itself is sold out. There are some of the elements sold individually. I will link them for you below, and you can go check those out because the coffee, the donuts, the hamster, so cute. Speaking of the hamster, you can get the Yum Yum stamp set as a digital downloadable stamp set. I love digital stamps. You just print them out on some lightweight cardstock and color them, cut them out. They're super fun. So I'll link that for you as well. I thank you so much for stopping by and watching today, and I will be back again very soon with another video just for you. Happy stamping. Bye.